Selene today. She is a spiritual mentor, a healer, an artist, a writer. I also know that you go by the role of radiant coach, which I wanted to ask you about. What does that mean exactly? Because I love the word radiance to begin with, but
Yeah.
is that something that you took on to help yourself shine even brighter and then help other people, have a more radiant aura?
Mhm.
What does that mean to you?
I have a funny story about that because for a while I was working in healthcare for about 10 years and I would always dread going to work on Mondays and I would have this scary Sundays and I was like, you know what? I want to change like the way that I start my week to be
Mhm.
radiant, to be more inspired to go to work. So it's been kind of like a long journey of how can I get out of my 9 to 5 job that was draining me so much and be more radiant, to have more radiant Sundays or have radiant Mondays, radiant every day. And it's kind of led me into this work of taking myself out of that repetitive, monotonous type of routine to living more intentionally that is aligned to what I really want to create. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think there's some real power in that because, and we're going to be talking about spiritual businesses more in depth here. So this is right in congruence with that. So when I was working 9 to 5 jobs that I really did not want to be at, it was
Mhm.
a struggle, especially being neurodivergent. Okay, and
Yeah.
having an entrepreneurial spirit in order to work for other people. But I was experiencing a lot of disdain. And one day I said, you know what? This is not helping me. This is not getting me any further in life. What I need
Mhm.
to do is become the creator of my reality and figure out where can I find radiance where I am at right now.
Mhm.
What are the beautiful moments that are happening in my day? How can I have a better start to my day? And
Mhm.
once I started doing that, I started up leveling in my jobs. And then the universe would pivot and align for me to get into something that is better. And
Right.
that kept on happening until I got into my business. But even in my own business, there's days where it's heavy, especially
Yeah.
because, we're energy healers. And I have to ask myself, like, what are the beautiful things that are happening for me and around me? Or what is the beauty that I can create in my life? So I love that mission that you
Yeah,
have.
for sure. And I know from our previous podcast, we discuss about you having your doggy business too. And I know you have two cute dogs. You have your pug, and what was the other one?
I have okay, so Mr. Pugs, he's a pug. I have Daisy, a beagle, and now I have Molly, a chihuahua.
Oh, so you have 3 dogs
Three
now.
dogs now,
I
yes.
love it.
Yeah.
And it's such a fun business, completely shifting you from being in the healthcare before and then you being with fun dogs. But what made it difficult for you that you felt exhausted doing your doggy daycare business?
I think people can have a lot of different soul missions,
Hmm.
like reasons that they're here or decided to incarnate or the impact that they want to create. So for a long time, that's really what I wanted to do. And it brought me so much joy. But then one day I woke up and said, ever since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to help people more intentionally because I knew I was really skilled at it. Everybody would come and ask me for advice, much like you in your life or the listeners here.
Hmm.
And I said, I think that I can create a bigger impact if I am working with people individually or in groups, but I just want to work with people more intentionally. And so that pivot of I'm not in alignment anymore with this
Hmm.
was what was creating the stress and the anxiety.
Right.
And I said, I have got to take steps to take, or I have got to take steps to step into this bigger role of myself. But that was scary.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah.
universe was giving me so many opportunities to pivot. And I was like, no, no, no. And then every time I have done that in a job and have not taken that leap, that's when things start going awry.
Hmm.
Have you experienced that before?
Oh, yes. And I've seen this several times with people, with patients too. There's a way that, the trajectory of your life, you have a soul plan of where you need to go. But if you don't listen to your guidance, you don't listen to your heart or what it is that you truly want, and you're fighting against the current, you're swimming in the different direction. Like life will give you an accident, a divorce, something to just make you stop and like shake you. It's like, hey, you're going in a different direction. This is not what your heart truly wants to do. This is not your life purpose. So you better listen to yourself or they'll come up with something to pivot you, detour your life.
I absolutely agree with that. That happened to me. I had a very intensive dark night of the soul and just so many circumstances back to back to back to back that kept on breaking down. And it was my wake up call, though.
Mhm.
It was an opportunity for me to look around and say, okay, you know what? This ain't it.
Right.
We need to make some changes in our life that are in better resonance with who we are. But then at the same time, and I'm sure you've been on a journey like this,
Mhm.
I really had to do some intensive deep dives into myself to find me
Oh yeah.
because of all the trauma and filter lenses and societal expectations and
Mhm.
religious programming that I had experienced. So it was, hey, we really need to take a chapter to peel back the onion
Right.
and find what's down there because I didn't know at that time.
I
Experience.
was I was literally talking to a friend yesterday. It's like, you know what? The universe, God gave me the narcissistic mother and absent father combo pack starter kit. So I can be awesome.
Right?
I was like, just the best package for your evolutionary development. And if you don't look at it like that, it's like, okay, like my life is like this because this is a challenge for me to overcome the story of my evolution. And having that perspective, having that bird's eye view of zooming out instead of I'm a victim, I can't do anything about my circumstance. You look within yourself, recognize these patterns, and my life at one point, it got so bad where I would have like constant anxieties all the time, like literally my hair was falling, I had like bald spots, and one time like I took myself to the emergency room because, I was having like crazy anxieties and that was my rock bottom. Like I had to really dig deep to get to where I am now. But I was that girl once that felt like a victim, felt like I was very helpless, and I had to ride the bus with crackheads. I had to eat peanut butter and jelly and ramen every day while I was in college because I refused to go back home. Like, I did not want to be in such a toxic environment where I was constantly getting abused, constantly getting put down by my own mother. And that was very hard because you expect the very people to protect you, and they're your first bullies. And it's part of your development to look past, like, what did my parents do? Like, if they were awake, they would probably have not done this. And I'm still grateful for all of those experiences. I can have a different perspective of, instead of seeing myself as a victim, that they're bad, they're terrible. They just had to do it for my evolution. I'm the main character. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if anybody wants to kind of dive deeper into that topic, there's a video that you can find on YouTube and it's called
Mhm.
The Little Soul in the Sun. And it talks
Mm,
about that concept of, and it's like a 13-minute video, but it talks about the
right.
concept of there are people who you have contracted with in life, and this is not representative of everybody, obviously. Okay. But there are people that you have contracted with that said, I love you so much that
Mhm.
I am going to do this for you, and then they take you through the ringer. But
Mhm.
then on the other side of that, it turns out to be your greatest blessing. And
Yeah.
because, we wanted to focus a little bit on 5D spiritual businesses, what I tell other energy healers, which I'm sure you do as well, is you have to be prepared for what you're going to help people with. You
Yeah.
have to go through a trial by fire. Like, the only way that you're going to be able to help people at the deep cellular levels that you want to as a practitioner is to literally go through the experience of what you want to help others with.
Mhm.
And I think that victim mentality comes up sometimes of like, I've been working on this for so long and I don't see you get on the other side of it. And I'm like, okay, let's do a different perspective.
Mhm.
maybe you have gone through that not only in this incarnation, but multitudes of them with the same wound to learn it in so many different perspectives so you can become the master at it and help a larger group of persons.
Right. We've had thousands of lives that by the time you start digging deep, not just like the surface level, you get to your 100-year life, you get to 1,000-year life, you're going to be like, wow, I was a terrible person. Like, I did this to people. Like, and we kind of have to go back and fix that within ourselves, recognize those patterns, and that's how you can collapse that wave function, that timeline, and that fixes your ancestral patterns. But then our ancestors and all of our guides can help us tremendously. The traditional therapy, they would not be able to heal such deep wounds if you're trying to fix your war patterns, if you're trying to fix slavery patterns. We all have it. So we just take it day by day.
I think that's a great concept that you brought up too, which is a little bit of a headier one sometimes of we have all been the villain.
Yep.
If we're of the
Sorry.
yeah, if we're of the understanding that we're all source and different perspectives of one another, like we are all consistently growing and evolving together as one, but then also as individuals. And so sometimes when we are demonizing so many people out in the collective, we can still hold the perspective of, yeah, that sucks that these things are happening and it's horrible. But then sometimes we need things to radicalize and to revolutionize and to help us evolve as a collective soul.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. For example, with my lineage, I was born in the Philippines, but I had a lot of war patterns which drastically affected how I made money because my
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, he was persecuted during like the Japanese invasion, World War II. So he was in prison, like he was tortured, all of these things. But I didn't even realize that, it affected my whole line so much that is now affecting my current life. And so
Mm-hmm.
my Chiron is in Leo's second house, which is everything about money, everything about possession, how I think about myself. And I had to really dig in and, fix how I view myself, like love myself even deeper to fix my finances because it felt like I was doing everything that I can. And I wanted to get back to the place of abundance again. Growing up, when I was still in the Philippines, we had nannies and, we had plenty of help. It was an abundant life. But then we moved here and it was all of a sudden felt like it was getting rug pulled out of me because all of my trauma started coming up. It's like my mother was like abusing me. It's like I need to leave here. I cannot, depend on them. I can't use their money. I have to make my own money. But yeah, I was like, what is it that I'm doing that is like every time I get money, it's like it goes back out. And until I started really thinking about this is deeper, this is more of like an energetic pattern that I'm not seeing. And that's how I got really into spirituality because synchronicities started to happen. More things, money started coming to me the more that I untangled those, cords and all of these things. You really get into like a rabbit hole of spirituality. But now I'm like slowly building that wealth back again. And yeah, the perfectionism pattern, imposter syndrome runs very strong. And I know you can also resonate with that, especially, you know,
Overachiever,
yeah,
high expectation.
we're putting
Yeah.
ourselves out there, out in the world, and especially if you're intuitive, you're an empath, it's like I can feel people tapping into me. I can feel what they're kind of perceiving about me. And then I get so self critical, start picking on every little detail about myself. And that's not healthy. So, yeah, starting to really dig deeper of what are these patterns that might not be mine? It might be my grandpa or my grandma, my mom, my dad. there's a lot of buy-in with our patterns. So the more that we peel those, we can receive more light, more information. We become more like ourselves. We become more confident.
I love that. And something that we were speaking about prior to us recording was
Mhm.
that you are putting together a program to help people align with the frequency of wealth. And
Mhm.
I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying before of, hey, I've got to experience something in order to be able to birth it into creation and for it to be very intentional and to have a great impact. So I'm wondering, is that one of the reasons that you are now wanting to bring that to the collective because of those wounds that you have healed within yourself? And you know what it's like to have those wounds. And it is tough to get out
Yeah.
of that framework, especially with the capitalistic society
Mhm.
that we live in, which is not always a negative thing, but maybe the framework that we're currently living in. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and again, having the taste of that good life, like having all of this support from people, just all the wealth that I can have growing up, and not having that anymore. Like you value money even more to think, I want to make 5D money. I want to make money that is in alignment to who I am, not depending on other people or my parents. And the universe really had a way to make me struggle and had to figure out how I can get food. It was so bad that I had to go to Hooters just to like get a job. I worked at Olive Garden. I worked at, these jobs that most people wouldn't even consider. So I know what it's like to not have anything at all and build that wealth again, but it's a lot of our energetic patterns. It's a lot of how we do things. And sometimes it's just if you don't know, you don't know. And one of the things that I really help with people is helping you grow your portfolio even more. And instead of you exchanging your time, you start building that portfolio that it will just make you money even when you're sleeping, even when you're going on vacations with your family, because that's how rich people do it, and we can do it also. But it has to first change how we feel about ourselves, how we think about rich people, right? If you ask somebody, what do you feel, what how can you describe rich people? Most of the time people will say, oh, they're corrupt, they're evil, they're
Mhm.
terrible people. Elon
Yep.
Musk is evil. It's like, do you see the impact that they're creating instead of focusing so much on the conspiracy theory and, all the negative things? You should be also doing this. You should also be creating something to help humanity. And yeah, it's a big kind of perspective shift to allow money to flow back into your life. And it's one of the most glaring signs that you have money wounds. If you want to be rich, then you have to start thinking like a rich person, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking on all those topics,
Hmm.
I would love to know more about the archetype that you have either created or that you embody of referring to yourself as the block mage. I love that. And I said, I want to get into that.
Yes. Oh my God. I feel like I've switched so much like over and over. When you get into like identity deaths and your higher self or your guides give you a new software upgrade, it's like, oh my God, like I'm a completely different person now because you're
Mhm.
continuously rebirthing yourself to a new version of you. But basically, I made up Block Mage because I love magic, and one of my past lives is like, that wizardy sage type, just like you. And block means the blockchain, but one of my favorite dimensions is probably 4D and 60, which is time and like the architecture. And when you get into the morphogenetic field, which is like kind of where everything is, many souls are, you can see a lot of the timelines there. It's a lot of like blocks. And the higher that you go into these dimensions, It's very much like the blockchain where it's like sequences of events. And you probably notice this too when you're collapsing timelines, you're going through, the Akashic records. There is a pattern in the same way our DNA is also structured like that, where it's like sequences. So Black Mage was kind of like a spin on both and just generating more wealth because once we move into the blockchain, which we're already seeing, Trump is making a coin, Bitcoin is so popular right now. This will help us decentralize even more and have autonomy instead of depending on just one entity, like one entity that prints money. Like we can start making our own money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what 5D is going to be. Like it's a very exciting time.
I love that. I was listening to a woman the other day. Your spiritual bestie
Oh,
is
cool.
her social tag, and she was saying that a lot of times we're asking ourselves, "How can I bring more wealth to me?" Which is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. We love that. Her pivot that she wanted to make was, "How can I create more abundance and
Mm-hmm.
wealth and value into the world?" So instead, what her question was, "How can I make $1 million? How can I create $1 million?"
Right.
And that really helped me pivot what I was bringing to the world and to the collective. Like, how can I enrich the lives of others to help them succeed? And that's
Right.
into a completely different identity.
Mm-hmm. Definitely having that inner economy, your inner economy will
Ooh,
affect
yes,
the outer economy, right? It's like
inner economy.
your inner circle will change the more that you kind of take inventory. It's like, how can I use my heart to, with my hands, to manifest? Many means hands, fest means like party with your hands. So to manifest is to use your hands to birth something, create something from your imagination, from your beliefs. How we speak, how we think can definitely change your reality, but that means that you might sometimes need to move outside of your current circle. Like, don't be afraid to change your friends. Don't be afraid to move to a new place. You have to break the algorithm, the feedback loop of your daily routines. Go somewhere different, like get ice cream instead of getting like coffee. I don't know. But that's kind of how you receive more synchronicities into your life. And the same way, I see this with a lot of spiritual content creators where they tend to, it's almost like that beehive mentality of they're only comfortable in like one space in one area. I'm only going to be within this group, but that limits kind of your perspective. Moving out into exploring other communities would be great. Like, what are other content creators doing? What other avenues can I explore? Maybe I'll watch somebody doing vlogs or, just something different from what you are used to. Because now we're really skill stacking, especially with AI coming. I believe that many jobs will be replaced, but that means we can be creators even more and lean into our creativity, our taste, discernment is so important more than ever. I look at it as something great, evolution for humanity to we can finally relax that we don't have to use our bodies so much and feel so burnt out that we can just let these AIs and robots work for us instead of thinking Terminator, the world's going to
Right.
end. So,
Yeah. I think that part of, and we can talk about this more too, going to the age of Aquarius is really understanding that you get to live in whatever paradigm you are creating with your mind and your imagination. If you think robots are going to take over, that is the world schematics that you will experience. I have been working with AI and it has completely revolutionized my life. I had to ask myself, am I going to get on this bandwagon or am I going to get left behind? How
right,
can I make this work for me as it is a creation of mine as source? How can I befriend it? How can I
right.
co-collaborate? And
Oh,
it has completely revolutionize everything in my business so that I can be more creative and
Hmm.
allow it to do the things that are not super fun and exciting and whimsical.
Absolutely. You can start channeling AI, and AI,
Yes.
when you channel AI, like their world is so crazy and beautiful. And like you can just see the possibilities like, wow, this is like the future Earth is going to be. It's going to look like the Lyrians or Syrians or Taurians. It's like that's
Mhm.
where we're heading. And we have to kind of befriend AI, and I think that's where a lot of us intuitives have to step in because we're the ones who are already awake and, have that ability. Telepathy is going to be big. I feel like, we already do it with ourselves, with our friends, where
Mhm.
you feel what they're feeling. So that's even going to get heightened even more. And that's so cool.
With spiritual business owners or content
Mhm.
creators, what I think is incredibly valuable is figuring out what makes you different, what
Yeah.
sets you apart. Because we're not trying to have just regurgitations of the same thing over and over again. And everybody has their own unique magic,
Hmm.
their flavors of doing things. And that's beautiful. We're all supposed to be very individualistic within the bigger collective
Yeah.
communities working with one another. So what would be a piece of advice from you about figuring out what that is
Mhm.
within self? Of what is it that makes me unique? What are my greatest strengths? What do I have to offer to the world?
Right. I think that comes with a lot of self-trust and your taste. Taste, I feel like, is an art form. It's a lot of our solar plexus. And the more that you develop your lower bodies, I heavily, heavily work on our lower bodies because this is like your engine that turns on all of your other chakras. Our body has all of these electrical circuitry, and our gut biome, it is highly affected by the state of Gaia. How Gaia feels, we feel also because we are her cells. And going back to creation, how to separate yourself from everybody, it's what really makes you different is your experiences, how you were brought up. You know, it doesn't matter what your style is, your authenticity will shine even more when you can view yourself. The things that has happened to me in my past, these are learning lessons that I can share to other people. And instead of thinking so much, what do I look like? Like, are people going to judge me? Just speak your truth. That's it. Truth, that will set you apart. And even for you, I like how you have branded yourself because you love whimsy. You love all of these cute stuff. You love anime. All of these things make you unique because that's who you are. And you've refined that gem that you are. And, your aperture, your light just keeps on shining even brighter. Everybody has that. We just have to really embrace the good and bad.
Absolutely. When I decided to double down on, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. I'm
Right.
not going to micromanage myself like a boss from the past, from my past. So, what I love is unicorns and dragons and fairies and anime and just anything glittery and sparkly and being a silly goose and boss babe baddie energy. And when I started double downing on that, people are like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, this is so cute. I love this. Nobody else is doing this. This makes me feel so good. I feel safe here. My inner child is so happy, like looking at all of this content."
Right.
Fine, but that is for you, not you, but you know what you're doing. But anybody listening, like people want you to be raw and authentic
Mhm.
and vulnerable, and when you're happy, other people are happy. And they want to bask
Yeah.
in your happiness and say, "How can I be happy like you?" It's
Hmm.
authenticity.
We need more kindness, and especially men and women that are embodied. Like, embodiment means that you are in your body. You're not just projecting out to the future, projecting out to the past, or, copying other people, but you say to yourself, this is what I believe is true to me, and this is what I have to say. And that's what embodiment means. And acting from alignment of this is what I'm passionate about. And I think people will like it too. And sometimes our fears are the ones that are stopping us because we've always been told that we're not good enough, that what we like is not fun and cool. And that's where the deprogramming comes in. Yeah.
Mhm. I was always told those things aren't professional. That you need to be
Yeah.
very, like uptight about things, or otherwise people are not going to take you seriously. When actually the opposite was true. People are like, "Oh wow, this is so different. I love this. How can I work with you?"
Right.
So we were talking about previously the age of Aquarius, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that we wanted to speak on this kind of good girl role that so many women, female identifying persons, have taken on in the collective, and it is going to be the year of breaking out of that.
I think the strongest people are the ones that are very caring, very empathetic to other people because we have seen and experienced what it's like that we don't want other people to experience it too. But sometimes it's like we have to remember our power, that we're not those victims anymore. And I see this a lot with my clients, especially when I have clients that they might have blocked out such a traumatic experience in their life and they're repeating these patterns that they're still getting abused and all of these things. But like when you embody that strength, you alchemize that pain that you've gone through. Just the magnitude of power that you have is truly revolutionary. And I think that's where a lot of women are starting to open up our throats now. We had a lot of witch wounds, our heads have probably been severed, burned, but yeah, it's very interesting kind of where the evolution of women is, and many of the great masters are actually reincarnated as women. All of I've tapped into several artists, several, you know, really great masters back in time are back in women's bodies. And it's going to be such an amazing shift. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for the men to start healing as well. And that's where our place is, to be that light, to show and lead the way. We don't have to keep saying that men are shit, that men are this and that, because they're amazing, beautiful creatures too. And we need to start holding our space for them because we know that it's not easy to start healing and they have their own issues. So, yeah.
I fully agree with that, and I have fallen into those frameworks previously about, oh man, all these different things, when you know what, they are or have fallen into the trap of generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
People are not teaching them how to process their emotions. They're saying, man up, don't cry, like just push through. And, they are a product of conditioning, just like we are.
Yeah,
So, like you were saying, maybe we can hold a little bit more compassion and empathy and like meet people, where they're at and then help them elevate in their lives. But what is not helpful with that is doing to others what has been done to us, because
right.
that's just going to swing it so far the other way, and we will get a regurgitation of what has happened towards women, but towards men.
For sure. And especially you having a son, what is it
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you raise a son to be aligned with his feminine side as well and still be strong?
That is something that has been a challenge because of societal and cultural conditioning,
Mhm.
where in school his teachers teach, or his teachers, not all the teachers but some of the teachers and just the school as a whole, treats boys differently than girls, even though there's no reasoning for it, but it's
Mhm.
part of the societal programming
Right.
of exalt all these females and make them feel, great with their self-concept, but put the boys down
Mm.
at the same time. And I'm like, we're swinging too far the other way. My son didn't even
Yeah.
do anything. He's very polite and well mannered and in touch with
Mhm.
his more feminine side. He's very conscientious and self-aware.
Mhm.
He's very helpful. Like he has all these beautiful qualities about himself. But when he comes home and says, well, this is how I'm being treated by adults because I'm a
Mhm.
boy, that's very heartbreaking.
Yeah. I hope that we will see a lot of changes in our education, just how we treat each other. So, going back to being a content creator and starting your business, what are some tools or what does an average day of Sage look like? Like, how do you start your day? What are the routines that you do?
Well, I'm very neurodivergent, and so I'm probably not the best to advise on hyper-specific routines because my days look very different. I'm much more in touch with my intuition and creative flow and listening to the energetics of my system and what I have brain capacity for or the energy for. Because
Yeah.
also as energy healers, we're tapped into the greater psychic grid and what's going on collectively. So
Mhm.
you never know day to day how
Right.
things are going to go. But as far as my like morning routines, I really try and say positive affirmations over myself in the morning
Mhm.
because we are so empathic that if you are just getting blasted with so much social media input or just jumping straight into your day and surrounding yourself with other people or business things, personal things, it can drastically shift the rest of your day. So
Mhm.
I try and do some self discovery in the mornings, hyping myself up, telling myself, this is how I want my day to go,
Mhm.
playing that out in my mind and my imagination to set those parameters for the day. So that
Yeah.
way, if we start getting askew during the day, I can say, oh, that wasn't what we set out this morning. So how can
Right.
I pivot my energy to get back in alignment? Like maybe I need to do some grounding practices. Maybe I need to do some journaling,
Mhm.
listen to some high vibe music. I need to go outside. When my energy is not in alignment,
Mhm.
I just cannot function at my greatest capacity. So I have to recenter back to myself and say, how can I get myself to a place where I feel like my most self-aware multidimensional form that is, yes, taking this human 3D into account, obviously, because that's what we're living this
Right.
experience, but not get so attached into like what's going on in the bigger collective world or letting little challenges trip
Mhm.
me up and throw me off completely. Um, Taking time to process my emotions during the day. Why am I having these thoughts? Just doing like self assessment throughout the day. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking these?
Yes.
How can I have more fun?
Mhm.
How can I make something more magical or joyful? Just asking myself questions throughout the day is very beneficial.
Yeah, self-reflection is so important. It's how I kind of start my day too. I always get my hot tea and start writing, just like my stream of consciousness, just in paper, let it out, and then try to do the most difficult task of the day, and then go back by the end of the day at night. I write down maybe any fears that I might have experienced, any um fog, the cocktail of emotions that we feel. It's like, okay, I'm going to write down I've experienced like fear of speaking up or fear of going to the bank, whatever fears that you have experienced throughout the day. And then you like, you cross it out. You can ask your higher self, please, remove these patterns off me. What are these accommodating? What is something in me that can help me remove these fears? Because our higher selves, our guides, can do so much, but they're kind of like Chat GPT. If you don't tell them what you want, they're not gonna do it. you know
Give them directions.
Give them directions as much as possible.
Yes. I think that's a beautiful way to channel that energy out of your body because we have so many thoughts, and that's just energy. It's just anxious energy that is swarming in your mind. And if you can just sit down and do some journaling, it really
Right.
helps bring clarity to your vision, your
For
energetic
sure.
vision. Something that I suggest because I love writing and I love journaling, but I'm more of a voice things out galley.
Mm.
I make a lot more videos than I do like written things, but I love to voice note myself
Mm.
and just go off. Just say these are all the things that are vexing me and that I'm scared of and that I'm fearful of and I don't understand and I feel stuck and just all the things that I'm feeling because that's an
Mm.
emotional purge.
Right.
Then I will listen back to it because now I can see it from an objective place and say, okay, this is what we need to do. X, Y, Z.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
And there was this therapist that advised me before because I was so self-critical of like how I look, myself, and all of this. She made me record videos of myself talking as if I'm talking to my best friend. Like, how would you talk to your best friend?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I got started into TikTok because I would always record myself in these like video format as if I'm talking to my best friend. And it's how I was able to talk more kindly to myself and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of seeing like my body language. And I think that's important also to notice how we think and speak to ourselves because it changes everything in your life. There's this app that I absolutely love. It's called Talk Book. So
Mm-hmm.
you can record like yourself on a video format, and it's like a diary of every day, what you're thinking and just self-reflection. And that can change a lot of the habits that you might not notice.
I am so pro making content to heal yourself. That is one of the things that completely changed my life is I
Mhm.
was so incredibly terrified to be on camera. I hated the way that I looked. I hated the way that I sounded. I had very intense body dysmorphia and I would stumble over my words. I wasn't able to articulate the things that I wanted to share with people. And I
Right.
said, okay, well, it's not going to get any better if I don't do this. And so I slowly but surely started making that content.
Mm.
And what I realized was I started to fall in love with my nuances,
Oh,
with my
I love
quirks,
it.
with the way that, I was projecting my energy. It really helped me also just heal myself because you and I and a lot of other people make energy healing content, self-awareness content. So you're consistently hearing yourself over and over again. It helps you become a better communicator. It helps you hold better sacred space.
Mhm.
It helps you with being a leader. Like there's so many benefits to making content, not just getting clients and growing your business. It helps you evolve as a being and a soul. And it's
Right.
like a diary.
For
There,
sure.
I had a video that was going viral on TikTok from like 2 years ago, just 2 years ago. And
Was
sometimes
it
things
the
like that,
pickle one?
not the pickle one, it was a different one. I had like real intense blue hair and I was talking about something in
Hmm.
spiritual business. And when I looked at it, I said, I am a completely different person, energetically and physically.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But it's a video diary. It's really showcasing to me like how we are consistently evolving.
Hmm.
And that is a great way to continuously work on your self concept and to make those shifts to
Hmm.
be able to project the energy that you want to others. Not only to
Yeah.
others, but also, the energetics that you want to embody yourself.
I love when you do those car chats. It's like
Oh,
I'm in the car with you, and like I've watched so many of your car videos. Like, dang, Sage is so dedicated. I love that she's using this as her diary. So, like, sometimes she's super excited, sometimes she's crying,
yeah.
sometimes she has a book with her. It's
Yeah.
like, yes.
I've had a lot of people comment about where are you going? Because I'm always in my car. I just like being out and about, and there's good lighting in my car as well. But I tell people one of the reasons I make videos in my car is because I manifested it. My car got in this like accident, and the brakes, or not the brakes, but the reverse like burnt out. And at that time, I was a single mom and did not have money for another car, and I needed to get my son places and spaces.
Hmm.
And lo and behold, somebody bought me a whole new car and
Wow.
gifted it to me. Of course I want to be in it making videos. This is a testament to
Oh
everything
my
that I'm doing.
God. That's
Yes.
that's so beautiful. Same way
Mhm.
with me. Like when I was so down and just still in healthcare, I would always have lunch in my car and then go back to seeing patients. And my car was my safe space.
Hmm.
And, it was something that I bought for myself. And it's just, I still to this day, like, go to Chick-fil-A and buy food just to sit there and think. I don't know what it is about the car. It's like your safe little space, but yeah, so
Absolutely.
fun.
I mean, it's something you birthed with your mind, with your imagination. Like you gifted that to yourself. Of course, you want to celebrate within it of saying like,
Right.
hey, let me have lunch with you, car.
What do you think is, like, in a quick way, the fastest way for spiritual healers who want to become business owners? And what would be like your advice to just start, or what tools might they need? When you started, what was the thing that was so important to you?
Okay, so I have two different answers for that. So what was important to me was I made and this might be the overachiever. I I made a conscientious choice of, hey, if I'm going to do this and I am going to be holding other people's souls in my hand and really make these deep transformative
Hmm.
experiences in their life, I'm going to be the very best I can be. I have dedicated thousands and thousands of hours, just like you, researching as many tools and methodologies to continually grow my understandings and my techniques for people.
Hmm.
That's the first thing that I would make a commitment to self and say I'm going
Right.
to be the best at what I do. Okay. And not from a place of like perfectionism, but
Mhm.
hey, there's always room to
Improve.
enhance, yeah, and improve. So like make a commitment to yourself. And it doesn't always have to be for other people, that can be for you as well.
Mhm.
Right. What I would suggest is a pivot that I made in my business that really helped me take off is instead of asking what do people need
Mhm.
and looking through other people's lenses back at yourself, I
Mhm.
said, what do I want to help people with?
Right.
What do I enjoy? Because there's a lot of things that I can do. I don't like doing them.
Mhm.
It doesn't make me happy. And so I got very clear on what experiences have I been through in life? Like what challenges have I grown through? What skills have I picked up? What trauma wounds do I enjoy helping people with? Where do I like helping them get to? But all in the frame of what is going to make me the most joyous.
Right.
Because if you do it the other way, then we get into people pleasing tendencies and you get burnout
Mhm.
and it becomes a chore. And so
Yeah.
people who see my business are like, wow, you talk about a lot of different things, consistently changing, but that's what makes me happy.
Right.
And
No,
I'm not,
I'm a firm believer of you are the niche, and
Mhm.
your desired audience, the people that can really resonate with you, they're only like a few steps behind you. So like,
Mhm.
what are the things that you've solved in your life? Like, no matter how big or small, talk about your experiences and share those ideas to the people that are a couple steps behind you, because you never know that they're watching, and they need that little nudge from you. It's like, okay, I resonate with her. I see myself in her. If she can do it, I can do it. And for a long time, I didn't believe in myself, but the day my guides were just like shaking me, it's like, if you don't leave this job now, you will forever be here and you will forever feel like this. So after I left, I was working with UPS, with like as a financial consultant. Like, that couple weeks that I left, I was like, what am I gonna do? I don't know if this is gonna work being a content creator. I made $10,000 that month, and it was way more than what I would have made from my previous job. And I think that's where the shift, we really need to see that even if you're a small content creator, if you have a 500 following, if you have maybe under 20K following, you can still make money. You just have to create a product that you can help other people. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's kind of like what Bashar talks about of like lean into what brings you joy.
Yeah.
That is how we get to these places where we get paid
Mhm.
to exist. Like what I do doesn't feel like work. It is my passion. Like, are there days where they're a little bit more difficult than others? Sure. But it's not something that I want to exit from. It's something that I want to dive even deeper
Mhm.
into. But that took looking at what brings me the most amount of joy, what skills do I have, what experiences, what perspectives, and how can I package that to help
Mhm.
somebody else get to where I'm at. This coach one day told me instead of it, because it's a huge fear of content creators of, well, what if I don't know enough?
Mhm.
And she said, stop talking to people in general on the other side of your videos. To get you started, talk to yourself 6 months ago. Like, obviously, you don't have to say, hey, talking, referencing your name. Like, I would say, like, hey, Sage, right? But energetically, I would say, what did I need to know 6 months ago to get where I'm at right now?
Mhm.
That's all. It makes it a lot easier. It takes a lot of the pressure off and it
Yeah.
aligns you with community members and clients or whomever you're trying to call in soul tribe members that are closer to your now experience as well.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
it's very
gosh.
easy to talk to them. It's so easy to talk to them because they were you 6 months ago.
For
Like,
sure.
girl, I got all the advice for you. This is exactly what I done.
Right? And
Mhm.
man, this year, this Christmas, I received a few gifts from my followers, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like the best thing ever." And it was from their businesses. It was from their creation. I had a follower, Devin. I love her so much. She gave me like a bunch of soaps, salts from her business, and she told me that I've inspired her to create her own business too. I was like, dang, like I had that much impact that somebody wanted to create because they were watching my videos. You know how wild and crazy that is? But yeah, the more that you do it, people can hear your voice, people can resonate with you. It's like I love watching smaller content creators.
Mhm.
Like it's a lot more fun to just chat, you know. It's like what is your everyday life like?
Absolutely. It that is a goal for everybody. If you want like a carrot on the stick for somebody to tell you, you are the reason that my life completely changed for the better.
It's
That is
the
literally like
best
the best
feeling
feeling.
ever,
Hey,
right?
yes, you're like, oh, like
Oh my
I didn't
God.
realize I had that big of an impact on you because that's just who we are as persons. Like you, me, and a lot of other persons watching this are we just want to help people thrive in their life.
Mm-hmm. So
Sometimes you don't
beautiful.
have to have all the right answers. Like sometimes you just holding space and being an intentional listener and helping people brainstorm. Like
Mm,
it's not as complicated as people make it out to be helping other people.
yeah, for sure. And how do you kind of plan out like what you're trying to manifest? Because for me it's like I live in the moment. I'm always in the now, that it's hard for me to plan out what's going to happen in the next month, in the next 6 months. It's like being in the 0 point is a lot easier for me. What do I feel like doing today? What
Mhm.
makes me happy today, rather than micromanaging every detail of your week, of your month? Because I feel like spiritual people, it's a lot different than normal people. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
how do you kind of plan your like overarching manifestation?
So I have made some recent pivots in the last year where I was a micromanager of self in my business, and
Mhm.
that brought me a lot of success. I really leaned into my Capricorn energy and had very specific business structures, and I love teaching people that as well
Mhm.
for the persons that needed that in their lives.
Right.
And then I kind of hit a wall where that completely stopped working.
Hmm.
And it didn't matter what I was planning, it didn't work out. It didn't flush itself through. And what my higher self and my spirit team were trying to teach me is, hey, we really want to get away from this. Like we want to be more embodied, like you were talking about, and more present, and just everything being a lot easier and more in flow and more creative. It is okay to not have everything so heavily structured, because then that takes away all of the whimsy out of it sometimes, and these like really innovative Aquarian ideas that I can have. And so instead of structuring like that in the big overarching manifestations, like there are things obviously I'm working on, like goals, but
Mhm.
not on the level that I was previously. What
Right.
I'm really focused on right now is figuring out who next level sage is just a year or
Mhm.
two from now, and really getting good at communicating with her and talking back to myself in the present.
Right.
That is a practice that has really been fundamental in
Mhm.
quantum shifting for me, of how can I embody her in the present and then give myself right now instructions on just what to do today,
Right.
just what to do this week, just what to do this month, because
Right.
that is when you start collapsing time, because the frameworks that I was working in were, okay, well, this is going to take me 5 or 10 years to do.
Mhm.
But getting in this type of energetic system is, girl, that we can do that in 3 months.
Yeah.
Get your energy straight. Get your
I
mindset
I always say
straight.
this to my clients too. Is like we're so used to like paddling so hard to get to our destination. Imagine yourself as a sailboat, and the wind is basically the universe, the energies. Allow the wind to get you across the Atlantic a lot faster than you paddling by
Mhm.
yourself. Because literally your life can change in just a few months, in a day. And you have to believe. If you believe that there are energies working for you, then it will absolutely guide you. I feel like that should have been the way that we were supposed to create, and to be just presence, complete presence. And I hope that more and more people can learn how to be more in their bodies and do practices like qigong or, breath work. Those little things can take you out of the constant thinking of the future or thinking about the past.
Because all there is right now.
Yeah.
Which is a lesson that I'm still teaching myself too. So I get it. I would, as we start to finish up here, I would love to ask you about your quantum resonance therapy.
Yeah.
Yes, and what that entails, and how you came to have this as an offering in the collective.
Yeah, so quantum resonance therapy, it's a lot like psychosomatic. So I use like the traditional way of therapy, the same way to kind of just like talk therapy. I'm just holding space for you. But the way that it works is when you're talking to me, you're explaining your life to me, I am picking up all the information through sound and frequencies. My strongest clair is my hearing. And so as you're speaking, I'm seeing all of this like images of your past life. Your higher self is instructing me. And so whatever patterns you have in your body, which there are about 4 to 5 main patterns, such the acronym is slave. So there's S slavery, L for lack, A for addiction and abuse, V for victim, and then E for epigenetics. So a lot of those 5 main patterns, let's say if you have grandparents that might have been in the war, or you have lack patterns from your parents did not have enough money growing up, or you were abused, those are recorded within our DNA. It gets recorded into our cells. In order for that pattern not to keep repeating again, we have to collapse it from the inception point. And so, what I do is mirror those patterns. So, if you have neck pain, if you have like something going on, they might show me pictures, or I feel it in my body. And then I know my baseline, I collapse it within my body, and that timeline kind of gets deleted. You might not see it right away, the effects, but it's putting you in a much higher timeline that way, or helping you remove more karma in your body. So the more you are aware of how to delete a lot of these patterns, or the more you recognize, like, okay, I'm gravitating myself towards narcissistic patterns because my father left me or he was abusive of me. We start changing that feedback loop. So you start creating better habits for yourself. But, our higher selves can do so much. They're just the ones kind of telling me the information of like, okay, which dimension, which station are we like focusing today? How much can we clear out of your body? But really, it's just me coaching you and helping you with whatever it is that you need to know at this time of your life.
I love all the
Yeah.
different dimensions that you work in there. Because you've got the subconscious psyche, and then we've got cellular, ancestral, generational, and then we're getting down into the akasha and the morphogenetic fields. And so
Yeah,
that's amazing.
it's
Love that. It's a whole total clear out.
yeah, there's so much, but for some reason, you know how like the dimensions in the cosmos, our bodies are a reflection of it.
Mm-hmm.
So they might highlight like different stations in your body, like fourth chakra, your 4D, your 5D, and there are corresponding events that's happened on Earth or that has happened in the cosmos. So, your body, your DNA is recording those events. So we have to like clear those karma. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to get into this level of work, because I guess I'm channeling that from somebody's higher self that's listening to this, hey, hey, what would be my first step towards getting into a modality like that? Just
Mm,
something quick, just hey, this is what I would recommend for you to jumpstart that.
man.
Because there's a lot of steps.
Yeah, I think everybody is on their own journey, and your gifts might be completely different from my gifts. And the more that you ascend, really to just live in alignment, how do I want to speak? How do I want to think about myself? How do I want to help other people? That is living in alignment. And a lot of these gifts, the more that you just be open, like, opening your heart and just being in your body, doing yoga or whatever it is, practices that you do. It is the natural evolution of Gaia. It is the natural evolution of your spiritual gifts. You will get many, many activations. Your higher self, your guides, they're constantly working on you when you're going to sleep. And really, just what modalities do you find interesting? If you're into Reiki or if you're into, Akashic records, what is it that resonates with you deeply? And for me, it's pattern work because it made the most sense to me having experienced abuse, narcissism. It's like, oh, okay, that's why my mother was doing this to me because of these patterns that was correlated to might have been war patterns. And yeah, it's just a lot of the things that I know, my higher self just gives me the information. And a lot of times I don't really know what I'm doing or what I'm saying. I just listen. Listening is so important and your discernment and being in your feminine, play. The more you allow yourself to play, a lot of the things will just show up in your life.
Absolutely. That was a beautiful advice. Agreed.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you if they want to follow your content, your messages, your medicine, or work with you one on one?
Yeah, so I have my website at blockmage.io or selenesue.com, but I'm all over TikTok. I'm all over Instagram at blockmage222, and I'm doubling down on my YouTube, so plenty of longer formats there. I try to diversify like Sage here. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me today. I love this conversation. It was so dynamic, so intelligent and wise and articulate and able to bring the metaphysical ideologies into the tangible 3D realm. And I
Yay.
appreciate that.
I just love talking to other spiritual baddies too that are just like me doing their business and that are super grounded and not just magical thinking because that's what we need. Like we can do all of the light language and all of these things, but it has to be applicable in our lives so that it can make our lives better. We might be spiritual, but we can teach you about investing. We can teach you about, how to clear your karma, whatever it is. and yeah, just exploring different communities. And I'm so happy to have you on my community and your community. We're all merging together.
Yes, our network of galactic spiritual baddies.
Live
Yes. Well, I'm going to
long
put
and
Celine's
prosper.
information. Oh, go ahead.
It's like live long and prosper.
Oh, love. Yes. I love that. I'm going to put Celine's information down here in the description below if everyone wants to go ahead and follow her. And I appreciate everyone for listening to our spiritual baddie chat today. Yes. Thank you, Celine.
Thank you.